Nicholas. I'd like to introduce now the next part of the session. Dr. Carrie, Frederick Frost, and Gust Mecera are both board members of the St. Phoebe Center for the Diaconate. Dr. Frost is a professor of theology at St. Sophia Ukrainian Orthodox Seminary, and Mr. Mecera is construction manager, now retired, for 31 years with the McDonald's Corporation. Given Gus's first initial of his last name and his extensive experience with double arches, I would very much like to see what's on the front lawn of his home, of Anne-Marie's home. So they will now lead us in a session about engaging the clergy and the laity on the issue of renewing the diaconate.
Good afternoon, Reverend Fathers and Sisters and Brothers in Christ. Gus and I are here to provide a segue into a more practical session in which we will break into groups and we will talk about how we might go forth from this conference and how we might engage on this issue of the diaconate. But first, I would like to offer a few words on how we might theologically think about our engagement on this issue of the diaconate. And by we and by us, I mean all of us, I mean clergy and laity. And when we speak of clergy and laity in the Orthodox Church as one body of faithful, we often use this term, and it's been invoked several times at the conference, of the royal priesthood. And we're referring to this concept that's been built up in the church, but used by words from Peter when he wrote to an early Christian community these words: that you are a chosen race, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, God's own people, in order that you may proclaim the mighty acts of him who called you out of darkness into his marvelous light. So telling these Christians that they were a royal priesthood was many things, I think. But I think in particular, it was Peter's way of shaping their self-identity and of making it clear to them that it was their responsibility to proclaim the mighty acts of Christ. And so when I hear this word, this phrase, royal priesthood, being invoked today in Orthodoxy, I often hear it as this reminder of belonging, kind of directed at the laity, that acknowledges that, yes, the clergy has this special and distinct way of expressing and exercising their royal priesthood, but that we are all priests in this cosmic sense, all of us, laity and clergy alike. And this is true, but I think there's even a little more nuance to that. I think that the royal priesthood is not just sort of lofty language of inclusion, but I think, like for Peter, it's really a way for us to understand ourselves, and to understand ourselves as not as subordinate to each other in our roles, but as equally responsible and equally commissioned, clergy and laity alike, to proclaim the mighty acts of Christ. And I think entailed in that is a responsibility to the church, to care for the church, to nourish the church, and to renew it. And so, for me, there's a conclusion there, and that is that for us, for clergy and laity, who believe that a flourishing male diaconate would benefit the church and would help to proclaim the mighty acts of Christ, it is our responsibility. We are commissioned to do this work ahead of us, in humility and in love. And for those of us, clergy and laity alike, who believe that a renewal, a reimagination, an affirmation of the female diaconate is part of proclaiming the mighty acts of Christ, we must work together in humility and love to see that our efforts bear good fruit. And before I pass things off to Gus, I want to take a moment to thank again two women who have really been laboring in the vineyard and have really been living up, I believe, to this commission to care for the church, and without whom we would not be here today. And I think they both just stepped out of the room. But all of you will know that they've been thanked. Well, I just was saying, I will say it again. I was just saying that there are two women in particular who I feel like have really answered this commission to be royal priests and to live up to this responsibility to care for the church on this issue of the diaconate. And it is Marilyn Revelis and Anne-Marie Mecera. And we wouldn't be here today without them and their work. So thank you.
So good afternoon. I must say it's a little intimidating for myself to be up in front of this crowd of distinguished presenters, skillful presenters and theologians. As witnessed by my bio, I'm by far the least educated, qualified person before you this afternoon. But I'm also very grateful that I have a few minutes of your time, because even I can deliver a message that's relevant to our proceedings today. And what's been going on today is vital and important for our mission in the St. Phoebe Center. This education, this sharing, this dialogue. We've all learned something today. Last night and today. It's just been amazing. People come together and share. And, this is nice and it's important. And intellectual debates can be exciting, but we don't want to end there. St. Phoebe Center is one of the major tactics is to educate and get this word out. But we're about affecting change. We want to bring about this enlivenment of the diaconate and the restoration of female deaconess in the church. And change is a process. And I know I don't have the understandings of the inner workings, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be a lengthy process in the Orthodox Church. So, as has been in my career, 31 years construction management, change was a constant. So, change in management, change in leadership, change in process, change in designs. If you weren't changing, you were falling behind. You weren't going to make it. You had to be in this change management process. And one of the things that was, and it was vital to the success of the company, but it was change with a purpose. And it was important to avoid crisis. I couldn't help but think in the presentation before, coming together of this Moscow paper, or whatever it was called, I apologize. It was a response to a crisis. And we don't need to wait for a crisis. We need to learn to act responsibly and positively to what's before us today and make the right moves, and not wait until it becomes so critical. So that's what we're doing. And part of the change process is identifying a case for change. Why change? Why is it a problem for the absence of the female deaconess in her parishes? Well, I have my own statement on why this is. I think the church's failure to capitalize on the full talents of its faithful women is a detriment to its operation, its function, and its growth. Well, those are corporate terms, so I'm sure there's better words to be used for that. But what I mean by this is take a moment just to imagine in your parish the role of a deaconess taking place. It's a visible role of women-to-women ministry. What it can do for comfort to those in need, counseling and guidance that can provide. And what a role model would be for the young women in the church to see a person in a relevant, visible role in the church. In function, diversity is important in every organization that I'm aware of. And having women in key roles throughout the organization, like in any other diversity, allows whatever issue is on the table to be fully vetted, to be looked at in all kinds of different ways. So that when it comes out with a direction or guidance, it's fully vetted and ready to be received. And when things happen in isolation, it typically comes out and it's like, where did this come from? So, having women involved in all aspects of church, I can't see how it can help us. And as for growth, And you know, I know it's not a numbers game. You know, I'm sitting here at a very vibrant, wonderful parish. So, you know, growth might be something that is even on your concern, but I so often parishes that are struggling to pay the rent, to keep the lights on. And we're in a world filled with people seeking the truth, who are looking for the ancient church. And yet our numbers, we don't see this growth. Why is this? And I think, I got to believe one of the things is when people come in and are faith, and they see how it is revealed to them, and they don't see what I look at the inclusive nature of Christ towards women and men, and how we act. And all they see is a one-sided service going on in all men. I gotta feel it creates a barrier for them on their journey where this doesn't add up to what they see in the world. So I believe for the building up of our church, for the good of all of us, and to get the word out, we need to restore this role. And I know it's going to be a long time, and a few things that we need to be doing, I think. First off, you know, St. Phoebe Center, your financial support. There's a little plug for this, but it's going to take time. And it takes its cost to keep the website up to date, to be able to market to social medias, whatever's today, what's coming out in the future, create brochures, hold conferences, put on meetings. So helping to keep St. Phoebe Center vibrant and alive in the long haul, we need that to happen. And we need you yourselves to promote it to your friends. And also the message. You know, send people to that website. Share what you've heard today. We need to get the word out so that it becomes this groundswell support where it is the laity, it is us who are working in the vineyards. It makes it very self-evident to our bishops that what the wisdom would be to restore the diacon and the female deacons in our church. So, with that, we're moving into a session now where it's your turn to talk. And we're going to break up into jurisdictions and carry on these conversations of what you've heard today, your own personal thoughts, and how you see we can move this from this room and this parish to the broader perspective, and how to deliver the message to our hierarchy so that they will be receptive to our work that we're trying to do here. So we have 4 designated leaders, or 5, excuse me. So Marilyn is going to stay in this room with everybody who's in the jurisdiction of the GOA, Greek Orthodox Diocese in here. And then there's a large room. If you go out, you turn right past the registration desk. There's 2 red doors lead you into a large room where we're going to ask all the remaining jurisdictions to move into. And yes, but keep into your little groups. So my wife Anne Marie is going to lead the session for the OCA faithful that are here. Teva is going to guide the Antioch. Father Paul Chakras, thank you. We'll appreciate it. We'll be there for the Ukrainians. And then Father Sal, you got all the others. But whatever that remains. But it is, again, please make time of this, make it useful, and help get the message out.